and today we're going to work on a pre-trip video for a Class B with an air brake, school bus, and passenger endorsement. So hopefully it helps. When you go test, you take along this little check sheet now, so we'll try and incorporate that as we go. So you'll tell your tester, the first thing I want to do is start my pre-trip inspection on the inside of the bus. And as you climb to the inside of the bus, the first thing you want to check is to make sure your student entry area is in good condition. And you'll do that by checking my handrails to make sure they're mounted and secure. This is what you'll tell him. And I'm going to check my step tread to make sure they are clean, not excessively worn, and there's no trip hazards. So then we'll climb into the bus and go right to the driver's seat. When you're in the driver's seat, I like to check anything that I could check with the key off and the bus not running. So we'll start with, I want to check my first aid and body fluid cleanup kit. I want to make sure they are mounted secure and everything on the list is included. And now I want to check all my emergency equipment. My emergency equipment would be a 5-pound fire extinguisher that's mounted and secure, gauges in the green, pin and seals in place. I'm going to make sure I have 3 red reflective triangles that are not cracked, broken, or missing, and they are mounted secure. And I will just state I want to make sure I have extra fuses for my trip. In addition to that, I want to check my student mirror to make sure it's mounted secure and adjusted properly for me. I want to check my windshield. I want to make sure my windshield is clean, not cracked, broken, or missing, and free of any obstructions. I want to check my mirrors. I want to make sure my mirrors are clean and adjusted properly for me. So if we go back to our checklist, then we should be able to check off a few things. As we came in, we checked our passenger entryway, right? We checked our passenger monitoring devices. That is our student mirror. On your checklist, it's monitoring device. We have checked off our first aid body fluid cleanup kit. We can check our horn to make sure it sounds properly. That's exactly what you'll do on test day. All right, we have checked our windshield and traffic monitoring devices. That's also your mirrors. We have checked our emergency equipment. So that's kind of where we're at to this point. Then next you're going to tell your tester that I want to do a safe start on the bus. With my bus in neutral and the parking brake set, I want to watch for my ABS light to come on and then go off after starting the bus.
Channel 1. Channel 1.
After the bus is running, I like to get up right away and start checking off some more items. So now we're going to check all our student seating. We're going to make sure our seat frames are mounted and secure to the bus floor. We'll make sure our backs and bottoms are mounted secure to the frame. Make sure all the seats are in good condition. If your bus would be equipped with seat belts, you would just say, I want to check all my seat belts. I want to make sure that they operate as they should. They're in good condition. And you would check all these seats the same. And now I want to check all my emergency exits. I want to make sure my emergency exits are labeled properly, the instructions are in place, and that they operate the way they should. All right, and you'll check one, and then you will point out as you walk to the bus, you would tell the tester, now I will check all these the same. Here's one, and you just point them out. Here's one here, and one here. Now I need to go back and check the emergency door. I'm going to check my emergency door. I want to make sure it is labeled properly. The instructions are in place, and you want to make sure that the door operates the way it should. The door should latch open and then release. As you're moving back towards the front of the bus, you want to check all your emergency roof hatches. I want to make sure my emergency roof hatch is labeled properly and the instructions are in place. I have one here and one to the front of the bus. And now I want to check all my student lighting, both front and rear, to make sure that everything is in good condition and they are all illuminated. Now we'll head back to the driver's seat. We can take a quick peek here at our checklist again. So we just checked our student lighting. We can check that off. We checked all our seating. We checked our emergency exits. That's where we're at so far. Now, we're going to work on this top portion right here. You'll tell the tester, at this time I'd like to check all my heaters, defrosters, and fans on every speed, and then you'll physically do it. So you'll go over here to your, on this bus, everything is here. So I'm going to start checking my heaters. You'll turn them all the way on. 2 speeds there. Your fans each have 2 speeds. And before you finish here, we'll turn one defrost fan on, and then we'll tell the tester that you want to check your noise suppression switch. And what that is for your railroad crossings. You want to kill all the noise, so you check your noise suppression switch. Shuts all your noise off. It works correctly. Down here is a couple more heaters and defrosters. We'll make a selection all the way on. Check that it works properly, and it does. So now we can check off heaters, defrosters, and fans. Now I want to check all my wipers and washers. I want to check my windshield wiper blades to make sure that they are in good condition. They're not torn or frayed, and make sure they're mounted secure to your wiper arms. I also want to make sure that they work correctly. We're going to turn them on high, and we're going to make sure that they sway and spray. So you'll actually hit your washer, and then you'll just back it down to check every speed. Now we can check off wipers and washers. And now I want to check all my lighting indicators. And your lighting indicators are as follows, and this is physically how you'll do it. You'll say, I want to check my left turn signal and the indicator in the dash. I'd like to check my right turn signal and the indicator in the dash. I'd like to check my 4-way flashers and the indicators in the dash. I'd also like to check my high beam and the indicator in the dash. Those are all your lighting indicators. You should have these top 3 left. These are your brake checks. Missed out on a couple indicators. Ambers. I want to check my amber lights and the indicator here on the side. I want to check make sure my ambers change to red. All right, and they did. And now at this time we'll open the door, and we're going to check to make sure that our stop arm has came out and as everything is working correctly as it is, and then we'll cancel it off. Make sure your stop arm comes back in, the lights stop flashing as they should. All right, so then on that we can come right down here. We just checked our stop arm kind of the same time we did our lighting indicators. All right, so now we're checking off stop arm. Now we're into the brakes. Now I want to perform my service brake check, and anything we do we want to tell the tester first and then do it. So now I'm going to tell him I want to do my service brake check. What I'm going to do is, and you'll physically tell him, I'm going to release my parking brake, and put my bus in drive. I want to pull forward to approximately 5 miles per hour, apply the brake, and take my hand off the wheel to make sure my bus does not pull from side to side. After you complete that, you're back to neutral and parking brake. That is our service brake check. All right. Now I want to do my parking and trailer brake check, also known as a tug test. And what you're doing is just to make sure that your parking brakes are working properly on your bus. So with my parking brake set, I'm going to put my bus in drive, and I'm going to attempt to move forward. And you just put it in drive, touch the gas, you'll feel the bus move, or try to move. All right, parking brake still set, bus is back in neutral, and that takes care of our parking brake check. All right. Now what we'll need to do is our air brake check. And this air brake check is one of the pass-fail on the pre-trip. So in order to do that, we're going to start with the bus off. So since we activated our stop arm, I need to go to the back of the bus, and I need to reset our child reminder. So we'll do that. So after we reset our child reminder, we'll be walking back up towards the front of the bus. Your tester will most likely be up here in the front seat of the bus. As you walk back up to the bus, you will tell him, "Mr. Tester, at this time I would like to perform my air brake check." At that time, he will read you a paragraph or two. Listen to what he tells you. To sum it up, he's going to tell you to pump your brakes down to approximately 90 psi and begin your air brake test. Now we have a sheet on this air brake test. It's word for word. It'll need to be memorized, and this is one of the pass fails, but don't overthink it. All right, so he'll give you the instructions. The first thing you want to do is turn your key on so your gauges work.
Channel 1.
You're going to pump your brakes down to approximately 90 psi. And then you will tell him, "At this time, I'm going to start my bus and listen for my governor to cut off my air compressor at a range of 120 to 140 psi. You'll tell him first, and then you'll simply start the bus. Now we're just going to sit here and we're going to wait and listen. And when you hear the governor cut off, we'll move on to the next step. And there it is. Now you will turn your bus off. You'll turn your key back on so your gauges work.
Channel 1.
You're going to release your parking brake. You're going to allow the air to settle, and then you will tell your tester, "Now I'm going to apply my service brake to make sure that I lose no more than 3 psi in 1 minute." And then you'll physically push your brake pedal. And now in your mind, you're counting to 60, before that happens, your tester will generally say, okay, John or whoever, your minute has passed. So you're going to let off. Now I want to fan my brakes to make sure that my low pressure warning light, buzzer, and light activate before I drop below 55 psi. Tell him first and then do it. So there's our light and buzzer. Now I'm going to continue to fan my brakes to make sure that my parking brake set and the valve pops out at a range of 20 to 45 psi. Tell him first and then do it. There it happened, and this concludes my air brake check. All right, so that would be a successful pass there. Before you get out of the bus, you're going to want to tell him, at this time, I would like to check all my external lights. In order to do this properly, Mr. Tester, I would either need to get out of the bus and check myself, or I would ask you for help. And a couple things will happen. He'll either say, let's do that now, or he may say, we'll do it later. Either way, you told him, so we get to check that box, right? We've also performed an air brake check. So after you tell him about your external lights, at this time, I'm ready to get out of the bus and do my external pre-trip inspection.
Channel 1.
So we'll go right around to the front of the bus. And at the front of the bus, we want to start with all of our lenses. I want to check all my lights and lenses and reflectors. I want to start at the top and work my way down. I want to check my clearance lights, my student lights, both amber and red. I want to check my turn signals, my running lights, and my headlights. I want to make sure everything is not cracked, broken, or missing, and that they are the proper color. That takes care of lenses on the front of the vehicle. Now I need to work under the hood. So you're going to unlatch the hood, both sides. He may or may not help you. Just be prepared to do it all. With 3 points of contact on the hood, you're going to open the hood, and we'll move along to the right side. When you're on the right side of the bus, you're going to tell him, I want to check, and you can start anywhere, but you need to take care of the fluid levels that's on the right side of the bus. Buses could be different, but on this bus, we're going to start with our coolant reservoir. We're going to make sure our reservoir is mounted and secure. We're going to make sure the cap is in place. We're going to make sure it's not leaking, and we're going to make sure we're at the safe, proper operating level. Now I want to check my windshield washer reservoir. Make sure the reservoir is in good condition, mounted and secure. The cap is in place. It's not leaking. Safe and proper operating level. Now I'll do an overall assessment of the engine to make sure I have no fuel, fluid, or air leaks. That's all we can do on this side, so we're going to shuffle around to the driver's side. And we will start it the exact same way. On this side, I want to start with my power steering reservoir. I want to make sure my reservoir is mounted secure, not cracked, broken, or missing. The caps are in place, and I'm at the safe and proper operating level. I want to check my engine oil through the dipstick. I want to make sure I'm at the safe, proper operating level. We'll check our transmission fluid through our transmission dipstick, make sure I'm at the safe and proper operating level, and we'll do an overall assessment of this side of the engine to make sure I have no fuel, fluid, or air leaks. And that should take care of our fluid levels. Also takes care of our fluid and air leaks. We check that off after we've done both sides. Now we're going to move into our steering system. You're going to start right here with your steering, you can call it a steering rod, steering arm, but this is it. I'm going to check my steering arm and my knuckle to make sure it's not cracked, broken, or missing. It's free of any damage. Now I want to check my gearbox. I want to make sure my gearbox is mounted and secure and not leaking, because it does have grease or oil inside of it. Now I want to group 4 components together. I want to check my pitman arm and my drag link, my tie rod and tie rod ends. I want to make sure that they are all mounted and secure, not cracked, broken, or missing, and all the nuts, bolts, and cotter keys are in place. That takes care of our steering system. Now we're going to move into what they call the steering axle. And you can do this in any order you want, as long as we go through our checklist. So you can start with our tires. I want to check my tire. I want to make sure that my tire has at least 4/32 of an inch of tread. I want to make sure that the tread is worn evenly. There's no rips, tears, cuts, or bulges in the tire. And I want to make sure that I have proper inflation through my valve, stem, and cap. All right? That takes care of your tire. Now I want to check my rim. I want to make sure my rim is in good condition. I want to make sure I have no illegal welds, no rust holes, no damage to the rim at all. That takes care of your rim. I want to check my lug nuts. I want to make sure my lug nuts are all in place, make sure they're all tight, and make sure I have no rust trails, which could indicate a loose wheel. That takes care of your lug nuts. Kind of back inside here, I want to check that my springs and my spring mounts and my U-bolts, I want to make sure that they are all mounted and secure. They're free of damage. The springs are in line. They're not shifted. The U-bolts are in place and tight. Just make sure they're free of damage. Now I want to check my shock. I want to check my shock to make sure that my shock is mounted secure and make sure it is not leaking, because the shocks do have fluid in them. All right, on this particular bus, we do not have an airbag on the front, so we can check that box. Now I want to check my brake lines and hoses. So you're going to check right here with your brake lines and hoses. You're going to make sure they're in good condition, they're not ripped, torn, or frayed, and you're going to make sure you have no audible air leaks. And next is to check for brake contaminants. And you can't really see that, but it's down and up underneath here. What you're going to do is check, I'm going to tell the tester, I'm going to check my drums and linings for any contaminants, which could include dirt, oil, dust, grease, or water. And that checks that box off. Now we're ready to step back to the side of the bus and start doing an overview of the side of the bus. And we'll start the side of the bus just the way we did the front of the bus. I want to check all my lightings and lenses and all my reflective tape. And then you need to start naming them. I like to start at the top and work my way down. I want to check all my clearance lights. I want to check my turn signals, any multi-purpose lights. I want to check my stop arm lights and lenses, make sure they're in good condition. I want to check my emergency windows, that they are labeled and outlined in yellow reflective tape, and check my other reflectors. I want to check all these lights to make sure that they are not cracked, broken, or missing, and they are the proper color. We can check that box. Now, I want to check my traffic monitoring devices, which again is your mirrors. On the inside of the bus, we check to make sure that the mirrors are functional, but on the outside, we're going to make sure that they are mounted and secure and not cracked, broken, or missing. And you will tell him, I want to check all my mirrors, both front and side. Make sure they are mounted secure, not cracked, broken, or missing, free of any damage. We can check that box. Now I want to check my battery. So you're going to start with the battery door. I'm going to make sure my door is in good condition. It opens and closes and latches properly. My hinges are in good condition. And now I want to check my batteries. I want to make sure that my batteries are mounted secure to the battery box. I want to make sure all the connections are tight. I want to make sure the caps are in place. I want to make sure I have no corrosion on the batteries. We can check off battery. Now, for me, I like to check the frame here. I want to check my frame only because we can see it. You can say it at any time, but for me, I'm a visual learner, so I'm going to check my frame and cross members front to back and side to side to make sure my frame is in good condition. I have no illegal welds, no rust holes, no bends, breaks, or tears on it. And that can check our frame. Now we're going to move around to the back of the bus. And we'll start the back of the bus the same way we did the front of the bus. On the back of the bus, I'd like to check all my lighting and lenses. Starting at the top, I want to check my clearance lights, my student lights, both amber and red. I want to check my turn signal, my tail light, my backup light, my brake light, my license plate light, my reflector, and all my reflective tape and emergency lettering to make sure that it is all in good condition, not cracked, broken, or missing, and that it is the proper color. Takes care of that. Now, when we go up the right side of the bus, the only thing we have to talk about is any differences. So as we come along to the left side of the bus, the first thing we come to is our fuel cap. So you're going to talk about your fuel tank. You want to make sure your fuel tank is mounted and secure. You're going to make sure that the impact gauge, the cage, is intact and not damaged. You're going to make sure your fuel door opens and closes properly, and that your fuel cap is in place, and that you are not leaking any fuel. And right on up the side of the bus here, next is going to be our DEF tank. We're going to check our DEF tank door to make sure it opens and closes and latches properly. We're going to make sure our DEF tank is mounted and secure, and we're going to make sure our cap is in place and not leaking. And at that point, that concludes our pre-trip inspection.